After all he endured, he got through it. There is one thing that my son Melvin had, and that was strength.
On July 19, 2019, Tyhara brought her 13-year-old son Melvin to one of his favorite places, the barber shop. He loved to get his hair cut. They left the shop and got in their car when two men who had started an altercation earlier pulled up next to them.
That's when it happened. The moment that would change all of our lives forever. I was so scared and it happened so quickly.
The two men opened fire at the car where Melvin sat in the back seat.
There was no time to escape. The shots passed my face. I looked back at my son to see that he had been shot. My Melvin had been shot.
Melvin was hit by a bullet on the left side of his face. Tyhara rushed him to the hospital, where the doctors started working on him right away. The bullet severed an artery in Melvin's neck, cutting off oxygen to one side of his brain. The doctors coiled the artery to stop the bleeding and put Melvin into an induced coma. They decided that he should be airlifted for the best care possible.
The scariest part was not knowing. I saw doctors around my boy and couldn't get any answers. I couldn't fly with Melvin, so I drove. They said he was stable, but that drive was awful. I was in a panic not being able to be by my Melvin's side. So many scenarios were running through my mind.
Upon arrival, the medical staff stabilized Melvin enough for his mother to see him. Melvin was heavily sedated, but he was a fighter and kept coming in and out of the coma. 3 times he had to be resedated.
I just felt helpless, and not being able to help my son drove me crazy. He was stable, and I stayed with him that night, but it was horrible not having control. I just wanted him to get up. When I woke up the next morning, my son was gone. I panicked and ran out screaming for the doctors.
The doctors informed Tyhara that Melvin had suffered a stroke because of lack of oxygen to his brain. He was rushed into emergency surgery, where a portion of his skull was removed to relieve pressure on the brain. Melvin remained in a coma during and after his stroke.
They were trying to convince me to let go, but I knew he was going to get through this. I knew my Melvin and the strength he had.
After the craniotomy and many more surgeries, surgeons were able to reattach Melvin's skull and track his brain activity. About a month and a half later, the doctors began waking him up. Tyhara's heart sank when she realized the extent of Melvin's injuries.
He couldn't move. My Melvin couldn't walk, talk, or lift up his hand. He couldn't even breathe on his own yet.
Slowly but surely, Melvin's brain activity got stronger and he was able to communicate for the first time.
When Melvin was younger, he learned sign language. When he woke up, he still couldn't talk, but was able to sign to me. After all he went through, his first communication was, "Where is my hair?" That's when I knew he was still there. I knew that was my son. He had been through so much, but after everything, that is what he wanted to say, which made me smile.
Melvin recovered enough to be transferred to a rehabilitation hospital. Tyhara chose Good Shepherd Rehabilitation Hospital Pediatric Unit in Bethlehem.
I chose Good Shepherd because it was closer to home, and in my research I found that the progress they made with their patients was remarkable. Our first visit to Good Shepherd was when Melvin was admitted. I was so impressed by the atmosphere. I liked the staff. They were sweet and nice. The environment was uplifting and happy, and we needed that.
When Melvin arrived at Good Shepherd, he had a feeding tube and couldn't do anything on his own. It was as if he was starting life over. He had to learn how to sit up, talk, and eat. He had speech, occupational, and physical therapy, and met with feeding specialists.
In the beginning, I was there every day. The staff always kept me involved in his recovery. When I had to go back to work, they took detailed notes to keep me informed on his progress. I always felt like I was part of the team and part of his therapy. While they were teaching Melvin, they also were teaching me a lot. I was able to be interactive with his progress and teach him things on my own.
Then the day came that will live in Tyhara's memory forever. It was the first of more red letter days to come.
I'll never forget his first words at Good Shepherd. He said, "Good morning, Mom." From then, he was able to find his voice again, and he started to make strides in other areas. One moment that will stay with me is when he took his first steps. Within his first month, his therapist took him to the gym to learn how to walk again. He said he couldn't do it, but the therapist and I encouraged him, and he took his first 2 steps. Melvin had good motivation, but having them there pushing him and helping him know he could get stronger kept him going. Everyone was so shocked with how fast he was moving along. He was defying expectations every second of the way. I cannot describe the happiness I felt watching him get back to himself.
After 4 months at Good Shepherd, Melvin was discharged. He went home walking, talking, and drinking on his own. Melvin continues to make progress in outpatient therapy at Good Shepherd in Allentown.
Melvin is the same kid as he was before the accident. He is working on jumping, running, walking, balance, and coordination. He is outgoing and loves people and a good thrill. He loves to dance and feel happy and says that he dances for himself because it makes him feel good. He thinks he might want to be an astronaut or scientist someday. The love and dedication that Good Shepherd gave to Melvin saved my son. I didn't give up on him because he didn't give up on himself. He is strong. Melvin strong.